There's a conversation about Tiger Woods and his closest friends, the fans who center their Sundays around him, and the sport that owes him more than it admits have been trying to avoid. 3 car accidents, multiple DUIs, one of the biggest and most public cheating scandals in professional sport history. Throughout all of this, the world of golf has not reacted with accountability, but with sympathy. Instead of honesty, there have been stories about resilience and comebacks and the triumph of the human spirit. Tiger Woods is a true legend. What he achieved on a golf course over a 15-year span is hard to describe, but off the course, his life tells a very different story. Behind the trophies and the carefully crafted image was a man in freefall, lying those closest to him, risking the lives of strangers on the road, and sinking deeper into dependencies that no one around him seemed willing to address. His story is not just about greatness. It shows what happens when someone becomes so powerful and valued that the world starts making excuses for behavior that would ruin almost anyone else. If Tiger Woods had not become the most dominant golfer the sport had ever seen, you could look at his upbringing and draw an uneasy parallel to child stars and prodigy athletes shaped by parents with unfulfilled ambitions, pushed into public performance before they could grasp the true costs. Tiger was not raised to figure out who he was. He was raised to win. His father, Earl Woods, was a former Green Beret who served in the U.S. military. He approached raising a golfer like a mission, with total discipline, commitment, and no tolerance for failure. Tiger's mother described how, at 18 months old, he would go to the driving range, hit balls until he was done, then fall asleep in the stroller. Earl began contacting local news outlets in Southern California to get stories about his son on air when Tiger was still a toddler. He framed Tiger publicly as a child prodigy almost from the moment he could hold a club. By age 5, Tiger was already appearing on national daytime TV. Earl spoke about his son using language that went far beyond what a proud father would typically express. He believed he had been chosen by God to nurture this child and help him contribute to humanity. Earl was not physically abusive in the way that some parents of driven young athletes have been, but the pressure he put on Tiger was relentless and absolute. Tiger said that his father would get in his face, making him feel insignificant. Failure was never part of the process. It was simply unacceptable. Tiger became the youngest player to win the U.S. Junior Amateur title at 15, and the first player ever to win it 3 times. Yet the expectation went beyond just playing good golf. At 15, Tiger was being positioned publicly by his father as someone whose impact would go beyond the sport. Earl compared him to Michael Jordan and suggested his influence within the black community would be even greater. He called Tiger the chosen one and said he would have the power to impact not just people but nations. He claimed the world was only getting a taste of what was to come. Earl might have sounded unbalanced had he not turned out to be surprisingly accurate. Today, people who have never watched a round of golf know who Tiger Woods is. His dominance on the course was not manufactured or exaggerated. It was real and unlike anything the sport had seen before or produced since. What he achieved in the first 15 years of his professional career will likely never be repeated. Even before turning pro, his numbers at Stanford University were staggering. He won about 42% of the tournaments he entered in college, 11 wins from 26 events. In his final year, he won 8 of 13. But wins alone do not tell the whole story. In the Pac-10 championship, he won by 14 strokes. During a 54-hole event, he broke the course record twice in one day, shooting 61 in the morning and 65 in the afternoon. At the 1996 NCAA championship, he broke the course record in the second round and entered the final round with a 9-stroke lead. He then shot an 80 in the final round, one of the worst of his competitive life, and still won by 3 strokes. 1 month later, he left Stanford to turn professional. Nike signed him immediately to a $40 million endorsement deal, the largest in the history of the sport. The reaction from established tour players was not entirely welcoming. He entered his first PGA Tour events with a clear expectation of winning. The golf media considered this arrogant. What those commentators failed to recognize was that winning on the PGA Tour is something that most professional golfers never achieve. Some players spend 15 years on tour, earn millions, and never hold a trophy. Tiger secured his first professional victory less than 2 months after joining the tour in just his 5th professional start. In the following months, he added 2 more wins. But the moment that truly declared what was coming was the 1997 Masters, the first major championship he played as a professional. Tiger won the Masters by 12 strokes, which remains the largest margin of victory in the tournament's history. He also became the youngest Masters champion ever. From that point, the Tiger era was fully underway. By 1999, he was winning at a pace the sport had little reference for, 8 PGA Tour events in one season, including a second major at the PGA Championship. Then came 2000, widely regarded by sports historians as one of the greatest individual seasons in any sport. Tiger won 9 times that year, including 3 major championships. At the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, he won by 15 strokes, the largest margin of victory in modern major championship history. The achievement that truly set him apart from any other golfer is what became known as the Tiger Slam. In 2000 and 2001, Tiger won all 4 major championships consecutively: the U.S. Open, the Open Championship, the PGA Championship, and then the Masters the following year. To grasp how extraordinary that is, only 6 golfers in history have won all 4 major championships across their careers. Tiger won all 4 in a row. He was simply better than the sport for years at a time. He hit the ball farther than his competitors. His iron play was the best anyone had ever seen. His putting was elite. At the same time, the field was mainly filled with older players whose physical conditioning reflected an earlier era. Tiger was young and fit, using athletic training routines typical in football and basketball. He inspired a whole generation of professional golfers to meet his physical standards, making the tour much more competitive today than it was when he joined. In 2002, he won 5 times, including 2 majors, becoming only the 3rd player to win back-to-back Masters titles. Over the following years, winning became almost routine for him. There were stretches where he had to answer questions from the press about why he had not won rather than how he had. In 2006, he won 7 consecutive events. The next year, he won 5 in a row. For fans of other sports, where winning streaks are common, this might not seem remarkable. In professional golf, winning multiple tournaments in a row is extremely rare. Seeing it happen repeatedly from the same player was unprecedented in the sport, but statistics only explain part of what Tiger meant to golf. Before his arrival, many saw the sport as slow, quiet, polite, and suited for a specific audience. Tiger introduced an intensity and competitiveness that changed every tournament into something truly exciting. His fist pumps after key putts and the fierce focus between shots captured attention. The crowd would often follow him around the course, ignoring the other players. Those on the opposite side could hear the crowd noise swell and immediately knew Tiger had done something remarkable. This phenomenon became known as the Tiger Roar, and many competitors admitted they struggled with it. He openly acknowledged in interviews that he understood how his best golf affected his opponents. When he played at his peak, it was tough for anyone else to stay calm. The moments he gave golf fans are truly irreplaceable. The chip shot on the 16th hole at the 2005 Masters, where the ball rolled agonizingly toward the cup and paused on the lip for what felt like several seconds before dropping, is one of the most replayed shots in sport history. At the 2008 U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, Tiger played 91 holes on a leg with multiple stress fractures and a torn ACL, visibly limping through every round before winning in a playoff. Many consider this one of the most impressive physical performances in competitive sports. Television ratings for golf when Tiger played were 30 to 35% higher than when he didn't, according to the former president of CBS Sports. PGA Tour prize money grew by an average of 9.3% per year from 1997 to 2008, rising from $101 million to $292 million. Players on tour today enjoy a standard of living that is directly tied to how Tiger boosted the sport's commercial value. Between 1997 and 2009, he won 71 PGA Tour events and 14 major championships before turning 34. He was on track to break every major record in the sport within the next few years. Off the course, not much was publicly known about Tiger Woods. He made his personal life private. He didn't invite journalists into his home. He named his 150-foot yacht privacy, which clearly expresses intent. For a long time, this approach worked. Then one story broke, and everything fell apart within weeks. In November 2009, the National Enquirer was about to publish a story claiming Tiger was having an affair with a woman named Rachel Uckadle. Tiger learned about the story before it published and told his wife, Ellen Nordegren, that he had only met Rachel briefly at social events. He arranged for Ellen and Rachel to speak on the phone, seemingly to prove his innocence. Ellen didn't believe him. When the Enquirer ran the story, revealing details about a private trip Tiger took to Australia with Rachel, tension at home reached a boiling point. On Thanksgiving night, Ellen searched Tiger's phone and found a message from Rachel saying he was the only man she had ever loved. Ellen texted Rachel pretending to be Tiger, and when Rachel responded, she called the number. Hearing Rachel's voice was all she needed. The confrontation that followed ended with Tiger leaving the house, getting into his car, and soon crashing into a fire hydrant and a tree at the end of the driveway. Tiger's rear window was shattered. Ellen's explanation was that she broke it to pull him from the car after crash. Many people believed she smashed it with a golf club before he left. Tiger later denied firmly that Ellen was ever violent, insisting there had never been any domestic violence in their marriage, and he would not allow anyone to spread false stories. The South Park writers, acknowledging how culturally appealing the idea of a wife chasing her husband with a golf club was, made that fictional version so famous that it still comes to mind when people think of that night. What followed in the next few weeks was a public unraveling that the sports media had never seen before. Within days of the accident, a second woman came forward, Jamie Grubbs, who claimed to have been in a relationship with Tiger since April 2007. She said they had met about 20 times and leaked a voicemail to support her claims. In the voicemail, Tiger asked her to change the name saved in her phone because his wife had gone through his contact list. This was clear evidence that opened the floodgates. Jamie came forward not out of moral objection, but because she discovered she wasn't the only one. She had believed Tiger when he told her she was the only woman outside his marriage. She soon learned he had been making the same claims to at least a dozen others. What happened next was relentless. Every day brought a new woman. Within 2 weeks of the accident, the reported total reached 11. Some gave interviews on national television. Some detailed relationships lasting years. They described the promises Tiger made and the image he projected to each of them. Attentive, affectionate, present, while maintaining the same facade with multiple other women, along with a separate public persona as a devoted family man. The New York Post ran the Tiger story on its front page for 20 consecutive days, more than it did for the September 11th attacks. What made the story feel so significant went beyond its magnitude. Golf had always presented itself as a gentleman's sport, one based on self-governance and integrity, where players were expected to call penalties on themselves even when nobody was watching. Tiger had embodied that image. He often spoke about the importance of his family. He built an entire public persona around discipline and values. The gap between that image and the emerging reality was staggering. It was complete. The sponsorship fallout was swift. Gillette paused its campaign with Tiger and ultimately ended the relationship. Accenture stated he was no longer the right representative for their brand. Tag Heuer, AT&T, and Gatorade all cut ties. With his commercial world collapsing, Tiger had no choice but to confront the situation head-on. He held a formal press conference broadcast on ABC News, where he apologized extensively. He admitted he had stopped living by the values taught to him. He acknowledged he had convinced himself that normal rules didn't apply to him. He realized he never considered who he was hurting because he only thought about himself. He admitted he had crossed boundaries that a married couple should respect, believing he was entitled. He noted that fame and money made temptations easier to access and pursue. He said he had been foolish and wrong, taking full responsibility for his shame. Tiger's apology was largely accepted by the golf community and most of his fans. His return to the Masters in 2010 drew nearly 5 million viewers. The crowds at Augusta welcomed him warmly. Many inside the sport felt he was a victim of intense media scrutiny and that a man of his fame could reasonably struggle with temptation. The golf world was not prepared to cast aside the person it had built around for the previous 15 years. Following that scandal, however, his game was significantly altered. He did not win any tournaments during either 2010 or 2011. His ongoing injuries added up to many more challenges. An ACL tear, anterior cruciate ligament, in his left knee, a ruptured right Achilles tendon, MCL, medial cruciate ligament, tear in his left knee, and a left Achilles tendon. Strain all occurred as a result of years of physical wear and tear on his body. In 2011, he and his caddy Steve Williams wound up parting ways after a successful tenure spanning 13 major professional titles. Although Williams had always traveled alongside Tiger throughout his career, becoming privy to the majority of his private life, he didn't divulge much information concerning the scandal when the media approached him for comment. He did admit that the events were shocking to him personally and stated their working relationship deteriorated dramatically after the fact. Tiger came back in 2012, and you could see glimpses of what he used to be. He took the Arnold Palmer Invitational, then the Memorial. By 2013, he had piled up 5 more wins and was sitting at number 1 in the world again. For a second there, it genuinely felt like the whole thing had a clean ending to it. The fall, the mess, and then the guy finding his way back. But 2014 hit, and it became pretty obvious that what everyone hoped was a full return was something else entirely. His back started going on him in a way that had nothing to do with regular wear and tear. He had surgery for a pinched nerve, came back, and looked lost on the course. More surgeries followed. 2015 brought an 85, the worst round he had ever shot as a professional. He sat out all of 2016. January 2017, he tried again and missed the cut, pulled out of the next event with his back seizing up, had another surgery in April. Then a few weeks after that, police in Jupiter, Florida found him passed out at the wheel on the side of the road at 3 a.m. 2 flat tires, bumpers banged up. The officers knew the second they walked up to the car that something was seriously wrong. The body cam footage from the sobriety test got out, and it was hard to watch. A man who could not follow the most basic instructions, who seemed to genuinely not understand what was being asked of him, and who at one point told an officer he had not sung the national anthem backwards, which had nothing to do with anything the officer had said. Tiger put out a statement a few days later saying alcohol was not the issue and that he had not realized how badly his prescription medications had combined. He said it caught him completely off guard. The golf world rallied around him almost immediately. Jack Nicklaus came out and said Tiger needed their support. Other players on tour brought up his 4 back surgeries like that explained everything. The only person who asked the obvious question did it anonymously, pointing out that Tiger had told people just days before the arrest that he had never felt better, then asking why he was taking Vicodin if that was the case. When the full toxicology results came back, they showed Vicodin, Dilaudid, Xanax, Ambien, and THC all in the system at the same time. That is not a picture of someone who accidentally mixed up their pills. That is a picture of someone with a real and serious problem with prescription drugs. The tour acknowledged it for about 5 minutes, and then everybody moved on, because losing Tiger was not something anyone in professional golf was prepared to sit with. He went through a treatment program, came back, got welcomed right back, and like nothing had happened. Then 2018 and 2019 showed up and handed the comeback story everything it needed. At 43, he played 18 events, more than he had managed since 2012, and nearly won the PGA Championship, finishing second. Then he won for the 80th time on tour at the Tour Championship, his first win since 2013. The gallery flooded the 18 green because everyone there knew they were watching something they would be talking about for a long time. Then came April 2019 and the Masters. He had not won a major in 11 years. His last Masters win had been 14 years earlier. Nobody genuinely thought he had another one in him, and then he went and won it. The coverage went completely over the top. Every outlet called it the greatest comeback in sports history. People wrote about crying in front of their televisions. Guys in the gallery were wearing T-shirts with his DUI mugshot on them, and Tiger grinned when he walked past, like that whole chapter was now just a funny story they could all share. He won the Zozo Championship later that year and tied Sam Snead's record for the most PGA Tour wins ever, a record Snead had held since 1965. It looked like he still had more in him. Then February 2021, and everything just stopped. He lost control of his car on a road in Rancho Palos Verdes, hit a curb, took out a tree, and the vehicle rolled and ended up in the brush on the side of the road. Investigators put his speed somewhere between 84 and 87 in a 45 zone. The tree impact happened at around 75 miles per hour. No braking. The working theory was that he hit the gas instead of the brake somewhere in those final seconds. They cut him out of the wreck and rushed him to a trauma center. He had shattered both his tibia and fibula in his right leg. Full open fractures top and bottom. The officers who pulled him out said the airbags were the only reason he survived. Nobody went for a blood draw warrant, so there was never an official answer on whether he was impaired. Given everything that had come before, a lot of people drew their own conclusions, but it was not the kind of moment where anyone was going to say that out loud. The whole situation got folded into another Tiger resilience story, and the conversation moved toward what his next comeback might look like. A year after the crash, he was standing at the podium being inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame, talking about being turned away from clubhouses as a kid because of his skin color and how that had pushed him. It was a real moment. It just had nothing to do with everything else that had been building across his career. After that, he barely played. Between 2021 and 2024, he teed it up 13 times total. He was never in the mix. At the 2024 Masters, he came in dead last at plus 16. By that point, he had basically become a brand ambassador who happened to show up at tournaments. His name still moved the needle for sponsors and broadcasters, even when the actual golf had stopped reflecting who he used to be. Then March 27, 2026, Jupiter Island, Florida. He rolled his SUV in a single car crash. The footage from the scene showed a man trying his absolute hardest to hold it together, while clearly not close to okay. At one point down on one knee just trying to stay upright. At another walking away to take a phone call that turned out to be with the President of the United States. He failed the sobriety test completely. Got arrested for DUI. The backseat footage showed him nodding off and barely keeping his eyes open. Every controversy before this one had enough gray area that the people who wanted to be charitable could find a way to do it. The cheating scandal got framed as something between him and his wife. The 2017 DUI got called a medication accident. The 2021 crash had no blood draw, so nobody could say for certain. But 2026 came with body camera footage that captured the whole thing live and left basically no room to work with. The addiction was right there in the open, and it was not something anyone could reasonably spin. The golf world responded exactly the way it always does. Jason Day said Tiger was his hero, the reason he ever picked up a club, and that the scrutiny must be brutal to live under. Patrick Reed said the tour suffers when Tiger is not in it. Bubba Watson said he is pulling for him as a person, and that anyone going through something hard deserves people in their corner. None of that is wrong. Addiction is not something people just decide to stop doing because they feel like it. But what is happening with Tiger goes past regular compassion for someone in a tough spot. He has driven impaired multiple documented times. The times he got caught are almost certainly not all the times it happened. Every single time he got behind, that will he put other people's lives at risk. Around 32 people die every day in America in drunk driving crashes. Nearly 12,000 were killed in 2024 alone. Every one of those deaths was preventable. Tiger Woods has enough money to pay for a full-time driver around the clock for the rest of his life and still have more left over than most people will ever see. And he keeps driving himself when he is not in any condition to do it. The reason none of this has changed is not that complicated when you actually look at it. Tiger has never had to face real consequences. The legal system bends for money, and he has plenty of it. The golf world has never once sat him down and demanded better from him. Every mess he has made has been stitched into a comeback narrative instead of being treated like something that actually needed to be dealt with honestly. The DUIs and the crashes and the cheating all became plot points in his story rather than things that required him to genuinely reckon with what he was doing. When nobody ever demands that you change, it really should not come as a shock when you do not. He is 50 now. His time as a competitive golfer is done. Nobody has come anywhere close to doing what he did, and the sport is still waiting. His legacy is locked in no matter what. But the conversation at golf keeps finding ways to put off. The honest one about who Tiger actually is and what the people around him owe him in terms of real honesty instead of cover. Just got a lot harder to keep avoiding. The pattern that has followed him outside the ropes his whole adult life is going to keep running. The trouble comes, the support pours in, he goes to treatment. He comes back, everyone applauds. That loop does not break on its own. Something has to actually change inside it. And so far, not a single thing has.